New York City's, it is my esteemed pleasure, my great pleasure to be able to say we're going to be talking basketball on a very high level today. Me and Sam have brought in a professional. Let's talk basketball, New York City. Sam LaChow,
Yes,
how
sir.
are you, young fella?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited about our guest, and I'm also pumped that basketball's getting back on track tonight, and obviously the Nets tomorrow.
I feel such a selfish little prick when I talk about my basketball team. It's almost like I'm bragging. It's like I'm the richest kid on the block and I keep on coming outside and showing my new Jordans on an everyday basis. It's not right, but it feels so good, doesn't it, Samuel?
Yeah, I mean it's awesome. At this point, you don't want to you want to enjoy the ride, but I'm getting starting to get a little excited for the eventual playoffs to come. So, but we got still another half a season.
Yeah, no, and to talk about that up and coming half a season, I want to bring in a gentleman that, like, honestly, I think Nets fans owe a debt of gratitude to this cat because without much reward monetarily, this young man, like, I'm in terms of Nets coverage for me personally, like when I get Nets information, it starts with Anthony Puccio, and I'm thrilled to have my homeboy on here. Like I honestly, like me and Pooch have met in real life. We did the Evan Roberts podcast together. Crazy things were said, but Pooch, can are you there, sir? Can you hear me?
I'm with you, brother. Last time we did this, you said AD was coming to Brooklyn, so let's make sure this isn't
I meant Andre Drummond.
a different.
The crystal ball threw me. Wrong 7 footer. Nah, man. Yo, like, uh, so everyone knows you as a Nets fan, growing up Nets fan, and you're an optimistic dude. You don't really spew negativity on the timeline. So a lot of times, through these hard times, Nets fans look to you as a person to kind of be that beacon of hope. Like even you, sometimes in these really hard times, I kind of looked at shit dark too. Couldn't help it. It was bad.
Yeah.
But like, how was it for you to carry that? Like internationally known as a Nets dude. Like how hard was it for you to get us to this point?
I mean, Eve, again, you followed me from day one, and Sam, you mentioned the same thing. For me, it was like covering the team was house money because I was still in college. It was fun. It was experience. That was my college experience, and as I don't know, kind of learned the game a little bit more, understood what the fans wanted, and really started interacting. It became fun. But um, you watch the Nets. For me, obviously, I've watched this team since I was a little kid when they were in Jersey. Watching that Jason Kidd team up front, had season tickets, studied the game, and then man, I mean, when I started covering the team, that's when the downfall hit. That's when they traded all their picks, and it was almost like, hey, we'll toss this kid a bone while he's still in college. But respectfully, for me, it was one of those things. He like, you know, another man's garbage is one man's treasure, right? Like so it was unbelievable to have that opportunity to cover an NBA team up close, but that was some of the worst basketball that I've seen, some of the worst managerial skills I've ever seen. Um, and it wasn't like I was trying to stay positive. It was more just like I try and keep things in a real perspective and understand like that 14, 15, 15, 16 year with Lionel Hollins was some of the worst basketball discombobulated basketball I've ever seen. But when Sean Marks came here, and this is why I was always relatively optimistic, even when they were bad. Contrary to the Billy King days and the Lionel Holland days, I saw a man, and not just a man, but a whole system with a plan. Like, they actually knew what they were going to do. They knew where they had to get step by step. And we talk about culture so much, and people feel like it's beaten to death. But the honesty in it is that I saw Kenny Atkinson and Sean Marks actually building a culture where guys wanted to go play. And when Louis Scola said, like, once his team is good, whoever they want, like, that didn't come as a surprise to me because I had been covering this team. They had that beautiful practice facility that matters to the players. Like little things, like they made the couches bigger for 7 foot, human beings, these giants, like the little things that matter. Sean Marks was sending families, flowers to 10-day players, to the mothers, to the sisters, to the girlfriends. They're doing little things like that really appealed to the players on the human side. And I understood the importance of the word of mouth. And so you do take those stepping stones, right? You implement this blue collar culture. And a lot of that is to Kenny Atkinson. A lot of that is attributed to him.
A lot of Knicks fans think that I'm being a jerk, or I'm just talking them down or something when I say it hurts them that they train in upstate New York. It hurts.
Yeah.
And because you have the access, I want to ask you, like, how much of that, even though you clearly just reported on it that it's real, but how much of that is implemented, like, in a way that players take advantage of it? You understand what I'm saying? Like,
I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, I think of it like this, and it goes back to my point. Like, you build the facility 5 minutes away from the home arena in the borough of Brooklyn, up and coming, and these guys can walk to the practice facility. Where the Knicks, obviously, you got to sit in traffic and go 45, 50 minutes upstate. So Jared Dudley and the word of mouth that I mentioned before, Jared Dudley comes to the Nets. He's played on about 5, 6 teams before he came to Brooklyn. And he's talking to Kevin Durant. He's talking to Kyrie Irving. He's talking to all the best free agents around the NBA. And he's saying, yo, you could go to Madison Square Garden and play for the Knicks, but to get to practice, you got to sit in 45 minutes of traffic. Now, the Nets had that same problem when the facility was still in Jersey. But now that it's in Sunset Park, 5 minutes away from Barclays Center, that was actually one of the top free agent pitches for the Nets.
Right.
Like, if you want to play in New York and you want to go over there, fine, you could deal with that hassle, or you could just come here and everything is super convenient for you.
Look at the picture that Sam took. Well, not Sam didn't take it, but Sam posted exclusively of Nash and Blake Griffin having lunch or wherever they chose to meet. They look like two gigantic versions of Brooklyn hipsters at a dope Brooklyn restaurant. And guess what? They're going to walk around the corner, head over to Industry City, and talk about basketball even further. That, like, life looks pretty good, right, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I actually have I've ventured out to the practice facility just to kind of see the area, and I was kind of around it anyway. And I mean, I think everything that you guys just said is totally spot on. And I think even like just from like a relatable level, like who would want to like join to join a team and then to spend, as you guys were mentioning, hours on end in traffic. And like, I'm from Westchester, and like, I think their practice facilities in Greenburgh, which is like unbelievably north from where I am. Even like it can be 45 minutes from me, and it takes me a half hour to get into the city. So, I mean, like, I think that can't go under the radar. But Pooch, I was curious for you because we're even mentioned Blake and obviously Drummond and Otto Porter. A lot of different guys have been mentioned, but I'm kind of curious because you know the organization super well. I mean, it goes without saying, and I'm assuming Nets fans know this, but like, you were all in on the Harden trade and knew about it before any of the big insiders did. And I'm curious, like, in terms of the pecking order of who's making like big time decisions within the organization and within the structure, At Barclays Center, like if you're talking Josai and Marks and also Nash, but then also Durant, Irving, Harden, where do you kind of see the pecking order of who's kind of deciding who are the right buyout guys? Like, is there a pecking order? Is it still Marks' show? Because we've heard stuff that size involved, whoever.
Yeah. I mean, look, I was having this conversation with one of my friends the other day, and I was like, it's interesting because Sean Marks is the Don Vito Corleone of the Brooklyn Nets organization. That makes KD like the Michael Corleone, or vice versa, right? So when you're talking about pecking order, I think it's one of those things like Sean Marks had all the power when Prokhorov was still here, because Prokhorov and Dmitry Razumov had messed up so bad with that Celtics trade being hands-on that when they hired Marks, it was like, you do what you got to do, and we're going to stay. Humble
those guys. I was just saying that it humbled the Russians. They kind of was like, all right, we don't know what we're doing. Let's hire someone competent. This Marks guy looks like he knows what he's doing. Let's protect our investment and get the hell out the way. That's a skill, as a matter of fact. I salute them for doing that.
Absolutely. And they learned, like you said, they were humbled, and that's the difference, though. Like Marks had all of the power, and now you do have a guy like Kevin Durant that comes in, and you have Joe Tsai coming in, and Joe Tsai is a hands-on owner. He has a lot to do with what the decision making is right now. Right. Kevin Durant does have a lot to do with the decision making. Ultimately, look, it's Sean Marks that's going to present these things to the table, and bring them. But without, I don't think he's getting as much leeway as he did with Prokhorov. I'll put that lightly, and I'll say that I think a couple of decisions in the recent past too, have been influenced by Joe Tsai.
How much do you think? Because I know you were all over this story. Salute my man, A. Pooch. How much do you think it was this type of scenario? Is Joe Tsai going, wait a second, we're going to be resting guys all the time? Forget that. Go get Harden right now. Don't play any games. Get him right now. How possible was that scenario, Pooch?
Well, I think it coincides with everything that happened in my story, like that I kind of prematurely written it in the eyes of fans and stuff in November. But I think Sean Marks always had an eye for James Harden, and I mean, these guys are working out together in California, and I believe they were talking about it. And you bring that to Sean Marks, he's going to figure out the best possible way to make that trade. Now, a couple months go by, Kyrie Irving is away from the team for 2 weeks for reasons that people don't know. Mm-hmm. I think that's when, Joe Tsai gets angry, taps Sean Marks on the shoulder and says, you do whatever you have to do to get James Harden in this building.
Right.
I'm not saying that definitively. I'm not saying that with sources, but it was one of those things where I know for a fact that Joe Tsai was very upset and very angry during that Kyrie debacle. And that's when they traded for James Harden. So, I mean, I'll let you guys put 2 and 2 together.
I think that's the only intelligent conclusion, because I really believe maybe not Karras or maybe not Jarrett, but definitely not both, right? One of those two Marks wanted to keep, and he was playing a little bit of hardball, because if they were going to do it, they should have done it when they still had their draft pick. All of these rumors started before the NBA draft. Exactly. You could have used that draft pick as a part of the package to get Harden. Honestly, they used it to get Shamet. I'm quite sure they would have liked to have kept Jarrett Allen and given up that draft pick instead. And it sounds like Houston wanted a pick more than they wanted Jarrett Allen. So I don't know, Pooch. Like how was there another way that you could say that Sean Marks wanted it to go?
Exactly how you said. He would have preferred to obviously throw in a first-round pick instead of giving up Jarrett Allen. They really did not want to give up Jarrett Allen. That's one thing I know for a fact. They really did not want to. Something that was very quiet is that, KD loved Jarrett Allen. People forget that, they both went to Texas. They have that connection. They They did play together for a little bit over the summer, and KD had seen Jared Allen's potential.